Welcome tech lovers, Ibrar here. Today I am going to cover Dockerfile Advanced Part 1, where we will deep dive in Dockerfile instruction for understanding purpose. This is the part 20 of Docker 0 to Hero series. DevOps in Action channel is more focused on DevOps in easy way. You always found complexity and simplicity here. Each video guide is available in video's description. Here will be only action as channel name is DevOps in Action. So let's jump to the lab without any delay. On my channel you can find out the link GitHub on and go in the repository Docker 0 to Hero series. On the day 20, mastering Dockerfile part 1. So basically, what is a Dockerfile? Dockerfile is a text file where we can set multiple instructions to set up a Docker image, right? Each instruction in Dockerfile tells Docker how to build the image step by steps. So let's understand how it works. Basically, Docker image is a layered file system. All layers merge into the single file system called union file system, which is overlay FS. So this merge all the layers into single view, and we can see each layer in separate using Docker history command. So let's see one by one. Here is the basic structure of the Docker file. Even I added a Docker reference file here as well. You must read this if you are beginners, right? So I added for you basically main used Dockerfile commands here. So I'm not going to explain because it's already clearly added a description for you, but yes, I can explain here. This is the Dockerfile overview illustration. Here is simple file. Let's see. This is the Docker advanced Dockerfile technique, where this is the Dockerfile instruction, and after that we will see multi-stage build, and we will see Docker ignore and advanced instruction. In the Dockerfile instruction, first thing first, we pick up a base image, and after that we set working directory, and let me use this one. First we set the from, and after that we set working directory and copy the file, and after set the run command. Run command basically install any application if required, okay? And cmd is the default command for the container executable, but you can override it. We will see in the next upcoming video. Expose is very good command. You must define expose to be expose the port in during the container run. We will see in the Dockerfile as well. And label, again add some metadata here. And for multi-stage build, you can make a smaller image and optimize it, and separate build runtime. You can do this well as well. Copy artifact. There are a lot of things here. And in Docker ignore file, you can exclude file, and it will make a faster build, because we need to exclude some folders and files during the build. In that case we can use it. And you can use a smaller context. Again, in advanced Docker instruction, it is not good to run Docker on the root user, so we can use non-root user. We can set it. And entrypoint, again this is the default executable, but this is the difference between the cmd. This is the default command, and this is the entrypoint default executable. We will see in the upcoming video as well. Health check, we can define our service is healthy or not. So that is again very good options for containerization systems. And argument we can set for the build time variable. Let's say during the build we are going to set this is our production, this is our development, this is the QA, whatever we can set it, right? So let's see, let me close this one. Let's see in the demo how it works. So I'm opening the terminal and making the directory day 20. Okay, here I have multiple files. I need to add those one is the Docker file. Copy this one and create this Docker file and done. And another file is main.py. This is the Python file, very simple. Here I added root and one is the ping, default root. So I copy this. Now I am going to build this Docker file, but before this let me explain what it is. This is not a best practices Docker file. Again, I am repeating it, this is not again best practices Docker file. I added it for explaining each things here. That's the reason I defined here. We will see best practices in upcoming session, don't worry about that. Okay, to create a Docker image we need to define first Docker, let me do this, Docker base image. This is the very important, okay, you cannot avoid it. During the build time you can use argument, we will see in the argument section. On build trigger it is again very important, we will see again this one in the upcoming. Default shell, this is very important. Let's say if you are using a container which support base also sh, in that case you can set either base either sh during your executable. Let's say you have a script and you want to execute in base and another script is using sh, so you can use both of script in the same file using the default shell. You can set the shell and after that execute script. So here I set the base script and I downloaded this script and used it. Okay, so copy file, basically copy the file from the host machine, this is the host machine, to the container. Okay, and next one is the label set metadata. So after container creation you can inspect docker inspect with the help of docker inspect command, and you can see who is the maintainer, what is the docker version, what is the docker instruction description, anything, right? You can set environment variable. Environment variable again is the important things to run. Let's say if you have database, then you need to set docker environment variable in the docker container. Either you can set docker env file in the container, you can map them there, both works. It's depend on the use case. Set the working directory. So default working directory you need to set, I will show you in the demo here. So default working directory, once you log in the container, it will land on the default working directory. And docker run command, it do the installation things in the container. So I added the apt get update and installed curl and ping command, and after that installed flask and set the permission for the wait for it .sh. Wait for it .sh is very important things you must know. This one, this is the basic advanced, you can say advanced level usage of the Docker. We will explain it in the upcoming, but as of now we're skipping. Define the volume. Again, when you define the volume in the Docker file, in that case, after checking image history, after inspecting the image, we can know that we need to define a volume, right? So we can define it. That is the very good things, and this is the default command. We can override it, and this is the entry point. Entry point we can override, but this is the it is possible, but we will see in the cmd vs entry point. Okay, I will make a separate video on it. I don't want to make a video length, extend it. So graceful shutdown. For shutdown we are putting the stop signal to this one, and run as root. So this is not good for production. Okay, so we need to define another user to run Docker container. Root level is not good. We will see in the upcoming video as well. Expose port, again it's saying that you need to expose this port, because the inside the container, inside the image, this service is published on the 5000 port. That means you need to expose the port on the 5000. Okay, health check again is the very important things in the Docker. You need to set health check. I written a ping endpoint in the Python code, and I am doing the same thing here to see to check the health check, right? So let's see in the demo, and in the main.py there is nothing, just ping and the main root. That's it. So here we have Dockerfile, and in the app folder one is the main app.py, right? So let's build the Docker image. Here is two command. One is the docker build, and after that using -t for tag, and this is the image name, and dot represents the current working directory where the Docker file exists, right? And the second command is the docker build with no cache. We will see in the cache videos, but as of now just see this one. So I'm going to use this command and want to show you. Let me maximize it. What it's doing, what happened? What it's doing, it's creating each layers of the Docker instruction. Let me tell you, this is the layers, and it's creating each layers here. Why it's disconnecting? Every command in the Docker file adds a new immutable layer. If a layer changes, in that case Docker only needs to rebuild that layer, and the ones above it's enabled for cache. Here you can see it's used from the cache because we run multiple times. That's the reason it's taking from the cache, and it's created a images, right? So let's see image history. Docker image history. What was the name of Docker? Here you can see the image history. We added multiple layers, and for your knowledge, avoid these kind of layers. Make sure to use less layers in the production. Docker Union file system used to merge these layers into a single file system, which is used by overlayfs, and each layer is separate, but when you create a container, in that case it's combine these layers into a single file system and after that show you, right? So avoid these kind of layers and try to make a less layers. So to create a less layer, you need to create a Docker file with less instructions, less commands, we can say, here in the Docker file. So you can see there are a lot of things, but it is not good for production, right? So for Docker file, I added a reference for you. You can read this Dockerfile reference. And also for Union file systems, you need to understand image and layers, how it works. Each layers create, and after that layer is locked, and it is read-only mode in the images. When you create a container, then it will extract these layers, and after that top of that it's add a new layer. So when you run, this is the Docker images, right? When you run command run docker, in that case it will create the same layers, and after that add a top layer. One is the writable layer. So writable layers add a data there, and in that case when you remove this container, then data will destroyed. In that case you need to use volume, right? Sorry, it's not working properly. So right, you need to volume. That's it. You must read these things. This is very important to understand Docker Union file system, how it works, and how Docker images layers works, right? So here it is explained very well. And for you, I added Docker files some reference collection. So here you can see HA proxy. HA proxy is very powerful load balancer systems. You can see here they added Docker files, but again this is the 11 years ago, so that is not good fit for as of now for production. But yes, you can take a reference from there, right? How you can install HA proxy with the Docker file. So I want to tell you that you must see these Docker files to understand how it works and how they written Docker file, to understand the Docker file writing instructions, right? So from the beginning they use the from Docker file. This is the base image, and after that they installed it and added some configuration, set the volume, working directory, and they set the cmd base and HA proxy start, right? So here you can see start.bash, what it does and how it works, right? Similar, you can set the Ansible. If you are in the DevOps, then you must aware the Ansible. This is the not good again, because it's again written in 11 years ago, but this will help you to understand how Dockerfile needs to be written. Here you can see Ubuntu from 14, again 14 is deprecated, now 24.04 is the latest, and again it's 11 years ago. There are a lot of things, but at least you must review these things in from your own and understand how they write Dockerfile and how it works. So here you can see they do the same thing, but again they used multiple volume. Here you can set and working directory, these things are the same, but they use expose port, right? And let's see Node.js. In the Node.js again, and every Dockerfile is before the 11 years ago, so this is the old one definitely, right? So you need to review all the things. RabbitMQ, Redis, MySQL, MongoDB. So let's see one by one. This is the RabbitMQ. This is the PubSub. So if you are aware, you need to review this one also. And Redis caching systems. Again, this is the same, but in the CMD they use the Redis server and use the configuration file. In the CMD we can define either shell script, either the default our services, either we can set default services with its configuration file. There are a lot of possibilities we can do based on our application requirement. In MySQL you can see just do the they did MySQL is safe, that's it. And in MongoDB, let's see what is there. They use the MongoDB, that's it. So that was the Dockerfile reference collection, but here you can see a lot of collection also available in these links. Okay, in the repository there are a lot of things which is I explained already. Nginx, RabbitMQ, all the things, Redis, Node.js. There are a lot of things here. You must see this. Also the Dockerfile reference. This is the not. Before that it was the, I think, yes, Dockerfile official, and this one is the other one, and you can see here as well. Okay, so latest code is again 9 years ago they committed, and here is some other Dockerfile sample. Again, this is the Docker official samples as well, right? You can review, you can see any of them. MCP workshop, you can see to-do list, you can see in the to-do list how they written. This is written in last year. So from node they used 20 alpine working directory they set and copied file into the container image, and after that install the production, and with the node they started the index.js and exposed the port. One more thing here you can do, just instead of doing this kind of things, go on the simple GitHub and here search the Dockerfile. Oops, I did mistake. Dockerfile, and instead of best match, see the yes, recently updated, right? In the recently updated you can see I did here, but there are a lot of people doing the same thing. You need to see their Dockerfile as well. So they added here Dockerfile 1 hour ago. What they written in 1 hour ago, they did some changes we not required, and 1 hour ago there are a lot of things they have. So let's see Redis, they changed that 2 weeks ago. Yes, before we see the Redis, that was the different, and here you can see they are using different, right? So with the help of Docker, this search, you can see Docker files, multiple Docker files. Here you can see they added So let's see any of them. There are a lot of things added by them. So nginx, let's see what they did here. Last week committed. Okay, you can see here they use some arguments and they added run. In run they installed all the packages, and after that added some labels, copied files, exposed port, and did the entry point. So try to avoid many layers in the Docker file for best practices, and search on the GitHub and see the multiple Docker files there written by some experts. Again, we can see here they added Docker files, and every people is writing Docker files from their own requirement, and maybe it's different from yours ones, right? So you can understand how Docker file written by some other peoples and how you can write it, right? That's it for in this demo, and you can connect with me. Also try to do from your own, try to write Docker file and read this one, and read all the reference here and understand to create the Docker file. And I also help you in the another part how to create Docker file from your application. And one more thing here I want to add. I think I added somewhere. Let me see. I already added. Let me show you. What's happened? Why it's not loading? Yes, in the 18 you can see run app to understand Docker. You can use it. I think net is disconnected, that's the reason it's not loading, but you can use one run application to understand Docker. Okay, it's loaded. Let me show you. Here you can see the traditional way to run Python, and after that how you can understand the requirement of your installation things. So this is the method 2, method 3 basic example with the no Docker file and with requirement installation. There are a lot of things I explained here. You must watch this video to understand how to create Docker file, but again I will repeat this in the upcoming session, don't worry about that. Okay, that's it for this session. See you in the next one. Thank you very much. Have a nice day ahead.